So we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to let you into my life a little bit. I want you to know a few things about me. I'm a daddy's girl after being a mama's girl for 29 years. I never wanted to be a politician. I'm unapologetically black, and sometimes I'm petty. And I'm the mother of the most adorable 10-year-old son. Check out his adventures at #StuffAidenSays. Growing up, I didn't know we weren't rich. I didn't know we weren't poor either. My mother and her sisters and brothers did all of this magic around me and my cousins, and we never knew what was going on. They just did what they had to do and hid it from us. Like most people, I learned my financial habits from my parents. My mother took me to the bank with her every 2 weeks to cash her or to put her and my dad's paychecks in the bank. And my father taught me the importance of saving and investing. And both taught me the value of retail therapy and how it's okay to splurge on something nice for yourself every once in a while. Things got better when I went to high school. My father got a better job. We moved into a better house. And then I got accepted to Hampton University. And but when I got accepted, we were definitely on a payment plan, and college was much more affordable in the 90s than it is today. I did a brief calculation of how much it would cost and how long I would have to save and how much I would have to save each month in order to send my son to Hampton at today's prices. And I would have to save $1,000 a month for the next 8 years, just for today's tuition for 4 years. We're not even talking room and board. That's crazy. After a brief career in the legislature, I was convinced to run for treasurer. Now, those of you who aren't from St. Louis, the treasurer is the most unique elected official in the country, no, the world. Not only am I the city's chief cash management and investment officer, I'm the city's parking supervisor. So I'm in charge of parking meters, parking enforcement officers, parking tickets, all under my authority. But I decided to use my power for good and not evil. When I ran for treasurer, I looked around the country to see what other treasurers did. Simple, right? You would think everybody does that. And that led me to Jose Cisneros and Stephanie Neely, who are the treasurers of San Francisco and Chicago. Well, Stephanie's not the treasurer of Chicago anymore, but she was at the time I was running. And both of them let me kind of call and pick their brains about what they did, but I found that they were using their power as the city's chief banking officer to convince banks to spend their CRA dollars in low-income communities, to convince banks to put together products that didn't penalize people for using them, and then also decreasing the number of unbanked and underbanked families. And as I looked at my own life and the lessons that I didn't learn about financial literacy, because shortly after I graduated from college, my father got sent to jail for income tax evasion. I had to move back in with my mother. I started a business that failed, and then my mother got diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she shortly thereafter died. And I was left with one choice, to file bankruptcy. And it took me 10 years to get back on my feet financially, and it was hard, but I survived. But as I looked at my own life and the lessons I didn't learn, and as I was running for treasurer, I said, this is going to be the clarion call of the treasurer's office. We're going to help people who either prevent them from making the same mistakes I did, or if they had experienced those kind of financial hardships, put them on the path back to financial stability. So after I was elected, we started the city's first Office of Financial Empowerment. And our mission is simple, to help people make better choices with their money. And I told you about using my power for good and not evil, right? So every time you pay a parking ticket, every time you feed a meter in the city of St. Louis, a portion of that goes to fund these programs. Most importantly, the College Kids Children's Savings Account Program, which since 2015 has opened over 10,000 savings accounts for every kindergartner entering a public school in the city of St. Louis, and we loaded with the first $50. No, this isn't $50. It's a $20 bill with my picture on it nonetheless. So this is one of the match savings programs through our partner, First Financial Federal Credit Union. On family savings nights, every family that enters a credit union gets a $20 Tishaura buck, as we call them, and we match it with another $20. So there's a way for kids to save, or families to save who don't have money. So what is a CSA? Comes in many names and many forms: child savings account, college savings account, child development account. It's simply an account open in the child's name to save for post-secondary education. And some of you may say, well, $50, that ain't shit. You know, that college is expensive. You're right, college is expensive, and no, $50 isn't a lot of money. But studies say it's the presence of the account, not what's in the account, that makes the difference. The studies also say that children with less than $500 saved are 3 times more likely to go to college and 4 times more likely to complete college than children without savings. Some of you may also ask, what prompted you to do this? A few things. Number one, I was following the lead of one of my mentors, Jose Cisneros. His kindergarten to college program is now in its 7th year. Also, as a black woman in politics, I lead from a different place. I try to solve problems and advocate for policies that help black mothers or single mothers like myself. Because I firmly believe that when you solve for black women or women of color, you solve everybody's problems. And third, because we're in St. Louis, the death of Mike Brown also prompted me to start this program. In May of 2014, I started meeting with leaders, local leaders, to investigate starting our children's savings program. 5 months later, Mike Brown was murdered and Ferguson burned. And in the months after, the Ferguson Commission released its report, and one of its core recommendations was the establishment of children's savings accounts. This made my mission that much more urgent because CSAs give children hope where hope doesn't exist. So what does hope look like? Well, before we talk about hope, let's talk a little bit about justice. You see, justice isn't about the police not murdering Mike Brown and leaving his body in the street for 5 hours. Justice requires us to ask ourselves the question, what would Mike Brown's life be like if he was still alive today? There's an 18-year gap in life expectancy in St. Louis between affluent zip codes next to poorer, majority black zip codes. We see violence on TV every day, but what we don't see are the people hard at work to address the root causes of violence: poverty, low wages, air pollution, poor transportation, and a lack of hope that kills people in our community every day. So hope looks like, aren't they cute? This is Deneen and Sean. Sean has been in the program since kindergarten, and Deneen, his mom, who didn't go to college, sees this program as the promise that Sean will go to college one day. And Deneen said, I wish that there was a program like this that invested in me and cast a vision for my life as a young child. I wonder what my life would be different like if this program existed when I was a kid. Hope also looks like Lucien. He's my favorite. Lucien's parents have been talking to college about him since he was 2 years old, so it doesn't seem overwhelming. And Lucien's parents see this program as the jump start that their family needed to start saving for his education. And Lucien has some advice of his own to kids that are currently in the program about how to save and build their accounts. So Lucien participates in medical research studies at the hospital, and he also saves his money from his chores. Hope also looks like families that stop me in the street or stop me when I'm grocery shopping or at the restaurant to say thank you for taking this off my really long to-do list. Hope is also embedded in Aesop's fable of the tortoise and the hare. Remember that story? So at the start of the race, the hare just takes off running. He's running, and he looks behind, and the tortoise is going at a slow and steady pace. And so the hare decides, you know what, I'm going to take a nap because I got all the time in the world. He's not going to catch me. I can take a nap and wake up and still win the race. But the tortoise keeps going at a slow and steady pace. Then the hare wakes up to other animals cheering the tortoise on because the tortoise is almost at the finish line. So he gets up and he races towards the finish line, but he's too late. The tortoise wins the race, fair and square. And what's the moral of the story? Slow and steady sometimes beats fast and flashy. Think of the tortoise as CSAs. Long-term investment built up over time. It also teaches lessons along the way of financial literacy and financial stability and responsibility, and you don't have to pay it back. You think of the hare as student loans. Quick financial need, long-term financial hardship. Also, the U.S. currently has $1.3 trillion outstanding in student loans. I know I have some too. And student loans often prevent home ownership in younger generations. Some may also think of the hare as scholarships. Families think they have all the time in the world, and they get to the last couple of years of high school and then realize, oh, I didn't save or prepare along the way, and scholarships are competitive, they're not guaranteed, and they leave families with very few options. So what's the lesson here? Slow and steady wins the race. CSAs are long-term investments. It's a long game. It's a big picture investment, things that you often don't hear from government. Because oftentimes, we lose patience with government. We lose patience with each other. We lose patience with the process and the system because we want our trash picked up now. We want that pothole fixed right now. We want that parking ticket fixed now, right? But slow and steady wins the race. We need to change our thinking to be more like the tortoise. Big picture investments over time, or small investments over time, lead to big returns over time. If we can be patient with our investments in the stock market and our investments in our retirement funds, then we can be patient with our most important and valuable asset, our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tishaura. Actually,